Good evening. We are starting with our next chapter in the textbook, System of Particles and Rotational Motion, which is actually chapter 7 in your textbook. And this chapter we start with the topic center of mass. Now, center of mass is defined as that point in a system of particles. So, when I talk about a system of particles, there are two types. You can either have a discrete system of particles where the particles are separated from each other. For example, suppose you have, let's say, three balls. We have three balls of the same mass or different masses. They can form a system of particles and they are, each one of them are separated from each other. So then this system of particle is what you call as a discrete system of particles. Or else you can have a many number of particles, like for example in my duster here, it's made up of n number of particles, but they're all so close to each other. The separation is almost zero. So such a continuous system of particles such a continuous system of particles in a single body, that is what you call as a continuous system of particles. So you can either have a discrete system of particles. For example, the moon and the earth. The moon and the earth are actually separated by a large distance, but they can form a discrete system of particle where the two particles are separated from each other. So whether you're talking about a discrete system of particles or a continuous system of particles, the center of mass of that system of particle is defined as that point in the system where the whole mass is said to be concentrated. Now, suppose we are talking about bodies where the mass is uniformly distributed and also it has a symmetrical shape. In such a case, the geometric center of that body itself becomes the center of mass. For example, suppose I take a system like this. This is a rigid body and you see it's a circular in shape and its geometric center is here. Now, this also becomes the center of mass. For any symmetrical body whose mass is uniformly distributed, the geometrical center becomes the center of mass. So the whole mass of this body is said to be concentrated at this point here. So in which case, if I hold it like this, then because the whole mass is concentrated at the center of mass, the weight of the body, m into g, must be acting here. So I can balance it if I simply apply an upward force at the center of mass. So the center of mass is defined as that point in that body or the system of particles where the whole mass is said to be concentrated and the net external force is acting at the center of mass. So the net external force acting on it, if it's under gravity, free fall, it will be only the gravitational force. So which means the gravitational force is acting at the center of mass. So if I now apply an upward force here, I can balance it because I am applying an upward force where the whole mass is concentrated. And so the gravitational force is acting at that point. Now if I shift it away from the center of mass, you see, you can't balance it anymore. Same way, if I take a body like this, let's say, I hope you've seen that I've drawn the center of mass is here where the diagonals are meeting. So if I am able to apply an upward force here, you see I can balance that at the center of mass. I can balance that if I simply apply an upward force at the center of mass. Any other point I cannot, simply because the whole mass of this body is supposed to be acting at this center of mass, that point, and also the net external force. If I'm just leaving it, the net external force acting in the downward direction, that is a gravitational force, will be acting at the center of mass. Now if I take a scale like this, this is a scale and obviously this being symmetrical, the center of the scale must be the center of mass. So the whole gravitational force will be acting at the center of mass. So if I simply balance it here at the center, you see I can balance it now because I'm applying an upward force where the whole mass of the body is acting. Any other point I cannot balance, right? Now you will also see this is now uniformly distributed. The mass is uniform distribution. Suppose I add a weight on the other side of the scale like this. Okay, I'm adding a weight. Now you will see that the center of mass will not be at the center. It will shift to a place closer to the heavier mass. See, it is no more at the center. The center of mass is shifted towards the heavier side. So that means the center of mass of a system will always shift towards the heavier side. So if you look at the Earth-Moon system, we have the Earth and the very tiny Moon. You will see that the center of mass lies just inside the Earth, of the two particle system here, one being the Earth and the Moon. The center of mass of this will just lie inside the Earth because Earth is much heavier when compared to the Moon. So that means the center of mass of a system of particles need not actually lie inside the body. It can also be outside the body. For example, suppose let's say consider this as a donut. Let's say it's a donut. Okay, we know that the donut has a hole at the center. The center of mass will lie at the center of this, which means you won't be able to balance it anywhere here because the center of mass of this whole thing, all these particles, this is made up of n particles, and the center of mass of this n particles will lie at the center, which means the center of mass need not actually lie in the body itself. It can also be lying outside the body. So two things I hope you understood. One is the center of mass of the body is defined as that point of a system of particles. When I say a body, I'm talking about a continuous system of particles. Like I told you here, this body is a continuous system of particles, or it could be a discrete system like the Earth and the Moon. So whenever you talk about a system of particles, the center of mass is defined as that point where the whole mass is said to be concentrated. Also, the motion of the body will be as if the net external force acts at the center of mass. So when we learned that projectile in the previous chapter, we saw that a projectile, once you project it, will then move under the action of the gravitational force alone. Now suppose your projectile was a football, then your football is moving in this direction, but it is actually the center of mass of that football that follows the parabolic path. So the whole mass of this football is said to be concentrated at the center, and it is the center of mass that is moving in the parabolic path. If you now take, instead of a football, let's say we take a scale and you throw it so that it swirls while it falls under gravity. Let's say it's a parabolic path. First my scale was in this position, then it turned again, and then it came to this point, and then and so on. Okay, so this is point A here, here it has turned here, here it's come here, and this is A. So you'll see my scale is turning, it's rotating, and A, the particle A at the end of the scale is not in a parabolic portion, it's not actually moving following that parabolic path. The parabolic path followed by the projectile is actually the center of mass that is following that parabolic path. Right. So the whole body moves as if the net external force acts on the center of mass. You will see that in this case, the net external force acting on the center of mass, and it is a center of mass that is covering a parabolic trajectory. So this is what we, I hope you've understood what we mean by the center of mass of a system of particles. Now to discuss further the motion of center of mass of a body, let us look at a two particle system. So if you take, let me say this is a coordinate axis, this is the x and this is the y axis. We have two particles, one of mass m and the other of mass, let's say m2. Now you remember what the position vector is. So if I draw the position vector from the origin for m1, this is position vector r1 and position vector r2. Let's say that the center of mass of this two particle system lies somewhere here. So this I call as the center of mass, and the position vector of the center of mass I'm going to call it as RCM. Okay. The position RCM is given by the equation RCM is equal to m1 r1 plus m2 r2 by m1 plus m2. So this derivation is not required for you. This is a formula for the position of the center of mass of a two particle system. Now suppose it is an n particle system instead of two particle. Let's say there are n particles. So in an n particle system, many particles. So we have, let's say, we have y here. This is the x-axis. This is many particles up to n. So this is m1, m2, m3, and so on up to mn. I have not drawn everything, but let's say, so this is, let's say, the center of mass lies here, and this is RCM. This will be R1, R2, R3, and Rn. So then you just extend it to an n particle system, which will be plus and so on up to mn Rn. This will be plus and so on up to mn. That will be the position vector of the center of mass. Now this RCM, you know, each one of these position vectors, you know, suppose I draw particle m1 here, okay. This is the position vector of m1, r1. This is can have its coordinates, that is, this will be along the x-axis will be, let's say, xi cap, and along the y-axis this will be yj cap, and because it's the first particle, I call it as x1 and y1. And if it's in space, it will have one more coordinate, that is z1k. Each of these position vectors can be given in terms of the x, y, and z coordinates if these particles are lying in space. So I may rewrite this as the position vector RCM also will have the x coordinate, the y coordinate, and the z coordinate. So here I may rewrite this as RCM is equal to this m1 plus m2 plus and so on up to mn will be the total mass of the body. So I may write this as 1 by m bracket, or I'll write it in terms of sigma. This m1 r1 plus m2 r2 up to mn rn, I may write it as sigma mi ri, product of mass into the position vector r, where I starts from 1 up to n. So it's the summation of mi ri up to n. Now if I'm going to write it in terms of the x, y, and z coordinates, I told you this RCM can have, this is a position vector of the center of mass. It can have an x coordinate, a y coordinate, and an z coordinate. So I may write the x coordinate of the center of mass as 1 by m sigma I equal to 1 up to n mi xi, adding up all the x coordinates of the different particles. Similarly, YCM can be represented as 1 by m sigma I equal to 1 up to n mi, summing up all the product of mass into that coordinate. We are talking about the y coordinate here. So yi. So yi would mean, the first one would be m1 y1 plus m2 y2 and so on. Similarly, ZCM will be equal to 1 by m sigma I equal to 1 up to n mi zi. Okay. So this is how you will find the position vector of the center of mass of a n particle system, summing up the product of mi ri of each individual particle, summing it up, dividing by the total mass of that body. So from this equation here that we have, from this equation we may write, from this equation I may write, this is a total mass, right? So I may write m into RCM is actually equal to m1 r1 plus, I brought this whole thing m to the left hand side. So I may write this as m2 r2 plus and so on up to mn rn, right? Now if I differentiate both sides with respect to time, so this will be m into drcm by dt should be equal to m1 dr1 by dt, m2 constant, so dr2 by dt, and so on up to d mn into drn by dt. This is actually velocity of the center of mass, drcm, rcm being the position vector of the center of mass. I may write this as mvcm is equal to m1 dr1 by dt will be the velocity of the first particle, m2, this will be the velocity of the second particle, and so on, mn into vn. I may differentiate again to get dvcm by dt should be m1 into dv1 by dt plus m2 into dv2 by dt and so on up to mn into dvn by dt. Now this is the velocity of the center of mass. So differentiate with time and you get the acceleration of the center of mass. So I may write m into acm is equal to m1. This is the acceleration of the first particle, acceleration of the second particle, plus and so on up to mn into acceleration of the nth particle. This m1a1 you know is force, net force acting on the F equal to ma you have already learned in Newton's law, where F is the net external force. So this m1a1 stands for the net external force acting on the first particle. So this will be F1 plus F2 plus and so on up to Fn, which is actually the net external force acting on the whole body, right? Because if a body is made up of n particles, then adding up all the individual forces will give you the net external force acting on the body or acting on that system of particles. So this is actually equal to MACM, you see, is equal to the net external force. Now what does that tell you? It tells you that the motion of the center of mass, here ACM stands for the acceleration of the center of mass. So the motion of the center of mass is as if the whole mass of the body is concentrated at the center of mass and the net external force is acting at the center of mass. This is what I was telling you before also. How do you define the center of mass? As that point in that system where the whole mass is concentrated and the net external force acts at that point. So this equation shows you that the center of mass moves, the acceleration of the center of mass is as if the net external force acts at that center of mass because the whole mass of the body is concentrated at that point. Okay. Now if you look at this equation here, this equation that we have here, m into VCM, m is the total mass of the body, m1 plus m2 plus and so on up to mn. VCM I told you is the center of mass of the velocity of the center of mass, and m1 into v1 should therefore be p1, right? Because mass into velocity is momentum, and this is mass of the first particle into velocity of the first particle, which is the momentum of the first particle. This will be momentum of the second particle and so on up to pn, which is actually equal to the total momentum of the particle. So we see mvcm is the total momentum of the particle, telling you that the total momentum of the particle is the product of the whole mass of the body, total mass of the body, and the center of the velocity of the center of mass. So we don't have to look at the individual particles. The total momentum is always equal to product of total mass multiplied by the velocity of the center of mass. Now here the importance of this equation is that, so suppose we now have, if you take the rate of change of momentum, okay, so we now know, I'm going to take the differential on both sides, so m into VCM by dt, right, m into d by dt of VCM must be equal to dp by dt from this equation here, okay. Now VCM by dt we know is the acceleration of the center of mass. So I may write m into ACM must be equal to dp by dt, we know is dp by dt. This we know is a net external force. I just showed you that the net external force acting on the system is equal to the total mass and the product of the total mass and the acceleration of the center of mass. So we know that this is equal to dp by dt. So now if this F external is equal to 0, it implies that this P must be a constant, right? Only then you will get F external equal to 0. So we go into the law of conservation of momentum, which says if the net external force acting on a body is 0, then its momentum must remain a constant. So we have this example given in your textbook. The example given in your textbook is, suppose we have the radioactive disintegration of radon. Okay. So let's say initially we have a nuclei which is at rest. So this nuclei is at rest. Okay. And it is going to split into two, radon and alpha nucleus. Now, if it is at rest, you know that these two particles must, let me first show you, if suppose this is moving forward and the velocity of the center of mass is Vcm. Now, if it is going to disintegrate into two nuclei, there is no net external force acting on it. It is due to the internal forces that this is going to disintegrate. So the internal forces do not make any change in its, when we talk about Newton's law, it is F external. So no external force is acting on it. It is only internal forces, and since no F external is equal to 0, its momentum must remain the constant. So you will see that this is split up into two nuclei, but those nuclei will fly off into different directions, but the center of mass of these two will continue to move in the same straight line because the momentum will not change. So this may disintegrate into two nuclei, but this now becomes a two-particle system whose center of mass will continue to move in the same original direction, no change, because there is no external force acting on it. Suppose this was at rest. So initially, suppose our nuclei before disintegration is at rest. Then if it disintegrates, the two particles will fly off in opposite directions like this, so that the center of mass, so the center of mass of these two will still continue to be at rest, because before disintegration the momentum was 0. So this particle, its center of mass was at rest. So after disintegration, it will become two particles, but the center of mass of these two particles will still remain at rest. So this is the topic on center of mass with which we start that chapter on rotational motion. Thank you.